Welcome to TildeVision Ideas. TildeVision Ideas is a program that explores ideas and concepts in the following areas: psychology, parapsychology, consciousness, ESP, dreams, spirituality, healing, creativity, quantum physics, business, wealth, and the Word of God. So many people have asked me, well, what does consciousness mean? Consciousness means just your awareness, that you're awake, that you're alive, and that you're aware of what's going on in your environment. Other people ask me, well, what does parapsychology mean? That just means that it's the supernatural. So we see a certain spectrum, and the rest of the spectrum that we do not see is still there. It's just that we don't see it. So I consider that the invisible, the spiritual, the supernatural. Some people ask me, what does ESP mean? Well, simply ESP means the gifts and the of the Holy Spirit. And so the fruits and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And so people always have questions. And so as they ask me, they call and they ask, I'll tell them. Today's show is a little bit different. Today I'm being very warrior-like. I'm being brave, very daring. And we will be discussing abuse and bullying in the workplace. And abuse and bullying has many forms, many shapes, many facets. And there are many factors to look at. So what I've done, I've looked at the bully and his particular traits, proclivities, leanings, tendencies. And that's very much a part of the abuser. They're inherent within that person. Then I looked at the relationship, the situation, and that simply means there's always a place where bullying takes place. The bully and the harasser, they're very sneaky. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they do a number of things. And so, but they're sneaky in that they attempt to do it when no one is looking. So you don't have witnesses. And they have these secrets, and this is how they conduct their life based on their tendencies, their traits. Also, I looked at the victim, the target person. Why? Because they are the ones that are suffering. And so I look at anything and anyone that is in that situation. And why should I do that? Because I'm concerned with healing. That's one of my callings, to do healing work. And it bothers me immensely that people either don't like to be called a whistleblower, or they don't like to be called a snitch or a rat, and they endure, and the abuser gets stronger, more daring, more bold. And so the whole idea is to bring this information, this education to the public, so that the public will eventually have means in how to navigate that situation, and in essence educate themselves. And that will be towards the end of the program. But in the beginning of the program, and I have with me my guest, Yvonne E. Hanks. Yvonne E. Hanks, and you will see it up on the screen underneath her name. She's involved with Worldwide Culture Link, LLC. And she has a consulting cultural intelligence, bringing mindfulness into leadership. She's very involved with leaders. She's worked in the community, civil engagement, etc. So she's also a health, wellness, life coach, strategist, a mentor, a guide. So not only does she have the logical thing, she also has a healing part of her that she combines with her practice. So if ever you want to reach Yvonne, so it's Worldwide Culture Link, LLC. She also does individual and collective actions. She's very involved in the community. She's worked with nonprofit. And so today we will be discussing how to identify the issues of abuse, harassment, bullying, aggression. And I've made a list, and if you're ready, I'll run them through before we start the show per se. So I always like to define my terms, so I looked at the toxic relationship between the abuser and the abusee. The reason there's always some kind of relationship. In my opinion, it's toxic. It's not productive at all. And as I said before, the abuser has a tendency to lie, steal, cheat, destroy, and cover up. They cover up their tracks. They're very astute that way. And so when I say toxic, there's always the person that holds the power, so they think they're powerful beyond the law or above the law. And also, they know how to select their target. By that I mean they're sociopath. In my opinion, they're sociopath, and some of them are psychopath. Okay, the psychopaths are the ones that kill, but these others, they'll kill, they'll destroy your dreams, your career, your reputation, your income. They'll kill. Their whole intent is to hurt, to injure, to harass, to intimidate through fear. It's mostly through fear. They have a tendency to isolate their victim, to somehow remove them from the rest of the group in order to have more control, because these individuals are control hungry, they're power hungry, they're narcissistic in nature. They really think that they will not be caught, and so they continue on and on. So the whole idea is, if you see something, say something. You know the slogan of the city of New York, if you see something, say something. So today we are saying something. I'm going to pass the baton, so to speak, to my friend Yvonne E. Hanks, because she's the expert in this area. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so talk to me about a little bit about your experience or information that you may have gathered about abuse and bullying, and your impression.
I would say that my experience with bullying, somehow personally into the community, was it began with my child when I moved to the school district. And unbeknown to me, at the time, this was early 1990s, he was 8 years old, and I moved to a school district in where it was mostly Anglo community, meaning there were hardly any ethnic minorities attending the school. So it was only 2 Latino children, one of myself included, and maybe 1 Asian and 1 African American. The rest of the demographics in the school were very Anglo. This was early in the 1990s. And my son came home several times saying to me, "Mom, they're calling me dirty face." And I normally would say, "Well, maybe were you eating candy or something?" He said, "No, they call me dirty face, and I don't know why." So it took me a while to cut on to what they meant, that he had a dirty face.
Meaning his complexion was a little darker?
His complexion was a little bit darker, like olive skin, kind of like mine, so to speak. And nothing that you could say, well, he's a Latino kid versus all these are Anglo. But somehow, because of his Spanish surname, and we spoke English in the house, so I don't know how the other kids got hold that somehow he was different in terms of where he come from, a bilingual home, whatever. You know, kids learn stuff in the school right away. So he began to get bullied, and as a result, it was causing him a lot of behavioral challenges at school. So I was being called to school all the time, and I learned very early on that the school system was not equipped to deal with those challenges, because they were pretty much responding to the majority of the demographic, like, well, you know, if my daughter said, oh, he said that your son is doing this, your son is doing that. But this was the first time that I was hearing complaints of any type. So I was
So what were some of the challenges in terms of the behavior that he was exhibiting? What did you notice?
Well, for example, he got a little hyperactive. Like, it was almost nervous energy.
Yes.
And as an 8-year-old, that's how he was internalizing and processing whatever was the abusive conduct that he was experiencing.
It's so interesting that you brought up the school system, and I've been aware of not the students per se at this point in time, but teachers and assistant principals being bullied by the principal themselves. Would you imagine within an institution of education that you feel it should be safe, it should be the anxiety level should be reduced, but what the children are doing, they're probably mimicking the adults. You know, they are cruel. They are cruel and vicious. They're sadistic, in my opinion, to want to hurt. Because that's the word.
Hurt.
The intention is to hurt.
To cause pain.
Yes, it's not to make you grow and make you happy and peaceful. No, it's nothing
about
like that. So it's interesting. So tell me about this nervous energy.
So I could see as a parent that shortly after he began the school year, that he was coming home acting out, a little nervous.
What was the acting out?
Like, for example, he couldn't sit still. He would be whining, and normally he was not like that.
What about sleep?
He would wake up a lot in the middle of the night.
Okay, sleep, because what happens when the person is under a lot of stress, so you have a disorder in sleeping patterns, you have a disorder in eating sometimes.
Yes.
Well, what happened with his eating?
No, he eating. Well,
You didn't
I
notice.
would say he will not really want to eat all the time. He was mostly nervous. He'll get up in the middle of the night saying, I don't want to go to school. And I will ask him, but why don't you want to go to school? Because they don't like me there. And he said, but as an 8-year-old.
8 years old, they don't have the
they
language.
don't know, they don't have the articulation. They don't have the ability to communicate like adults can say, well, this person is doing this and that to me. And all he can do was, well, I'm not supposed to hit back or to say anything back. But nevertheless, he felt that he was not being protected. But if he will take action to protect himself from the bully, then somehow
Then
he was always getting caught.
Then he'll get caught.
And
he'll get blamed.
He was always getting caught and getting
because
blamed.
remember what I told you, the bully, the aggressor, the harasser, they're very sneaky.
They're very good. Yes.
They're very good, and they know. They have another ability, which is to recruit people to back them up. Oh, really? This happened to you?
This happened to my son.
Really?
Absolutely. And actually, it happened so ugly. One time on his way to home from school in the bus, I used to give him like this little juice boxes for his snack time, always in his backpack, and he was drinking it in the school bus, that he would do sometimes. And the kid that was bullying it was like 4 or 5 kids together. There was one that was the leader. He took the juicy box and sort of threw it across all the way to the back of the box and hit a girl, and then he blamed my son. And of course, he told.
Oh yes, that's another thing that the bully does. They do a lot of blaming. It's never their fault.
They
they're
never take
they're innocent.
responsibility.
And they do what's called a lot of projection.
Yes.
Oh, he doesn't like me, or he said this about me. They project what's going on inside of them onto the other. That's interesting. Now, okay, so he was really so sad because he doesn't have the language.
And this was 1990.
Yeah.
1990.
And if he were to strike back, he would be in trouble with you.
And with the school,
with the
because
school.
it was a no strike, no hitting back or responding. The protection they had was, you got to go get an adult. But in this case, the adult bus driver was driving. She didn't see it.
No.
So she couldn't
No,
tell who was at fault. So what she did, she kicked both children out of the school bus.
That's right. That's right. The two of them will get suspended.
No, she kicked them out of the bus.
She kicked them.
She didn't even drive them
Then
to the homes where they were supposed to be dropped off. She left them in the street to fend for themselves, so he got all beat up.
Yes, I was just going to say, how dare she? She puts the abuser with the victim, with the abuser together, alone.
Alone, no
in the street.
supervision.
Okay.
In the street that there was not that much traffic or people passerby, and there he got all beat up. So that's when I decided to take action.
Very good. Now, within this, because abuse and bullying it's very large. Okay,
Yes.
the scope it's immense, and so I just want to zero in on the school system.
Yes.
And I want to focus on to the abuser. You know, some of his qualities. I wrote a few things down, and I began to get sick just thinking about them and writing it down.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, these are some of their traits. So that it's called leanings, tendencies, proclivities. In my opinion, I perceive the abuser as damaged goods.
It is. It's a person that is what I call a walking wounded.
Yeah, they are wounded, but they never learned how to. And so what what they did, they internalized whoever was doing the nasty thing to them. Now they're going to do it to someone else. So they'll step on other people.
Yes.
They become the abuser, and they're very dangerous, by the way. So, in my opinion, they're weak. They're very weak. They're cowards. They deep down they feel inferior. They really do. But they have this exterior that shows, oh, I'm in power, and they seek powerful positions. They're astute enough to identify a position of power. Why power? Why power? So they can step on the other.
So they can abuse it.
So they can abuse it. That's right. So they demand certain loyalty. They demand control of the situation. They want to be in charge. That's why they look for power. They're very narcissistic.
Extremely narcissistic.
Very,
extremely.
yes.
They fit the whole description of the DMSSR of
That's
narcissistic.
right. That's right.
And
They to the T. They're narcissistic. Yes, I got the book at home. ¿Cómo se llama el libro gordo este?
DSMSR, es que yo lo digo a veces.
¿Tú lo dices en español?
En español, el MDS.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
okay, don't worry.
Directory.
So they also suffer from paranoia. They think people are talking about them, doing X, Y, and Z. But that's because they are projecting all these demons that are inside of them onto someone else.
Yes.
Yes.
Usually those people that are walking around, like I express myself, saying they're walking wounded.
Multitude facet diagnostic, MDS.
You know what I'm talking
MDS,
about,
of course.
So they tend to be what I call individuals that are operating from a very low vibration.
Yes.
So when they have that low vibrancy, any kind of energy
Will
that is
attach-
around them will sort of find a home in that space. So it will exacerbate whatever is the pain and suffering they have that causes them to engage in abusive conduct to someone that they might, like I said, identify like this is a weakling that I can actually pour all these.
I call it a cauldron, and they have all this gook going on inside, and they do, and deep down they feel inadequate.
Extremely inadequate.
They're very inferior, but they attempt to put this positive superior.
Yes.
They want to project that, and so they're so afraid that you will discover their weaknesses and tell X, Y, and Z.
So they're always very busy creating issues and
Yes.
creating conflict
And chaos.
insidious. They're very insidious.
Yes.
Very insidious.
Yes.
And you find them in the workplace. You find them in the community. You find them at home in your own family members.
Oh, definitely, of course. I mean, that's
Families with a lot of siblings. You
Yeah,
always
yes, yes.
find the one.
that's the jealous one. That's the envious one.
Right.
And this individual takes on all these things.
Yeah, they feed into all that energy.
Yes,
that is
and I
negative.
wonder, is it nature, their nature, or is it nurture?
I will say it could be both.
I think so too.
Because you could be in a home where you come from an environment that you're very well nurtured. Your parents are doing a very good job in instilling and passing values to you. But somehow, if that child was raised a little bit spoiled,
Yes, a lot spoiled.
even though they might have the values, if the child is being spoiled, it's like the proverb says, spare the rod, you spoil the child. And if
Correct.
you observe the natural world, even when you're watching dogs and cats, an animal with their offsprings, even in the very first early stages that they're trying to teach them how to thrive in the world, you see this animal correcting their offspring when they're doing something they're not supposed to.
Right.
So it is in our natural and nurture
They have good instincts, these individuals.
to do that.
Yes.
But if you have a child that even though the parents are doing the best they can in providing a good home, instill values, and if they spoil that child, it doesn't matter the values that you instill, what is gonna set in this person's molding and shaping this individual will be all the behavior that they allow this individual to get away with.
What happens is the child is incorrigible, incorregible.
Incorregible.
And you've heard that expression.
Oh,
Ese nene es incorregible.
Exactly.
Incorrigible. He can't be taught. They don't like being taught.
No.
They don't like being told. They're very willful.
Yes.
They're filled to capacity with anger and rage. And this is why they become the bully.
Exactly.
Because all these
they cannot get what they want all the time.
and
it
they
has to-
and they
yeah.
want it all the time. You know
Yes.
why? They're narcissistic. narcissistic, really.
Yes.
They're narcissistic tendencies, and they don't have the ability.
They don't have empathy.
No, no, oh no, they don't
That
have
doesn't-
empathy.
They don't have any empathy, and there's no way that you can appeal to feeling sorry for you.
No,
Like if, let's say, if you're the adult and an adult person is bullying you, and you let that person know, you know, Maddie, you're saying this thing and you're doing this thing that really, it really offends me, or
No,
really hurt me.
they don't have
They
that.
don't hear that.
No, they don't have. They don't
They
have
don't have the
empathy.
empathy to understand that.
No compassion.
No.
No mercy, no trust, no love.
No.
They really, truly do not love. It's what can I get from this person?
Yes.
So you get mistaken when you're dealing with this type of individual. Now, talking about their rage and their wrath, they become little monsters or big monsters when they're adults. And
If the bullying conduct begins as a child,
oh, forget it. They
it
become
will-
a tyrant.
there will be a
They
very
escalate.
difficult person to be around with, or to even
Extremely.
have any kind of healthy relationship.
No health, no love, no.
It takes like a whole 360-degree kind of turnaround behavior change, and that's
It takes 360 degrees. It takes over 10 psychologists, psychiatrists working day and night for the lifetime of that individual to fix him. They have to break him up like Humpty Dumpty.
yes,
Right?
yes, yeah.
And then put him back together again. But they will not. They won't succumb to real therapy. No.
Because it's an energy too.
Yes, of course, they're very energetic.
It's an energy that
And it's-
obviously they're choosing in either they're consciously are choosing
Of course they
to behave
choose.
that way,
Yes.
or to actually have the ability to understand that they're living a life through an ego that is toxic, that is not healthy.
Oh, you said the same thing I was thinking. Remember the old-fashioned vinyl records?
Yes,
The needle
yeah.
is stuck on the same groove over and
Exactly,
over.
yes.
They don't grow.
They
They
don't
don't
grow.
learn.
No.
They don't mature.
No.
So in my opinion, they are psychologically damaged.
Yes.
And they are spiritually evil. They're
Yeah.
evil. When you really look into them, you say, oh, you become very afraid.
No, they're just. I don't like using that word nasty, but they are. They just have this.
Nasty is easier
And
than
they're-
evil. Evil is a very strong word.
I
for
know.
me.
They're very. To me, my experience that observing bullies that I dealt with in my career, the workplace, in the community, when my child had challenge in school, they just have this weight of it's a malice. That's the word.
Oh, yes.
They
They're-
have a malice.
Malice. They're filled with it. That's
It's
why
the
I call
malice.
evil.
Yes.
It's real. Yes. Y son malos.
They are, and they have totally disregard for another human being well-being.
And you know, another thing
they-
that I looked at,
Yes.
they have a way of thinking that I call concrete thinkers. Concrete thinkers, it's either white or black, my group or their group. You know,
Yes.
everything is so simple for them.
Yes.
You know,
No,
but
no,
the
it's-
world is not like that at all.
No, and that's how bullies are. Are you either on my camp,
Yes.
or you're not? And
Or
if
you're
you're
not.
not, I'll make your life.
That's right. Either you belong to my
Help.
group, and if you don't belong to my
Yes.
group, you belong to the enemy's group.
Yes.
They're at war. They're
Yeah.
always at war.
They're walking. I call them. They're walking around with a raging war inside of them.
Oh my gosh.
And they just pour it on others.
That's right. They're always at war.
There's
And
always at
to
war.
be in a situation in the workplace, I call it the war zone.
Oh, that for them is where they come and get their feed.
Oh, they
Because
feed.
if at home they're not really living that kind of
Oh
lifestyle.
no, they driving their parents crazy.
Their
Trust me.
parents,
If they're
or
young.
their spouses,
And their
whoever they
spouse-
are.
oh, yes.
But they come to the workplace and they thrive and they feed in the other need that they're
That's
doing
what
from the
feeds
others
them.
that are willing to support whatever is that their mission when they are targeting somebody.
You know, so you know you have a little bit of information about the spiritual realm, and so do I. And so when I see people like that, I say, oh my God, look at all those demons. They have demons. That's really what they are.
Yeah,
Demons. That's the spiritual
I
aspect.
call them the low vibrations.
You call low vibration, and they're very deranged. They're
Yeah.
deranged. Their motives, their intention, is so.
They're always, like you said, they have a grade of paranoia, so they're looking
Yes.
at others like.
That's right.
because basically they're looking at their own reflection.
Yes, that's the projection. They
They're
project.
looking at their own reflection, and their own mind causes them to think, even if you're not looking at them for any reason. In them, they're like, "What are you looking at me like
That's
that?"
right. Why
No,
did you
I'm gonna
look?
get-
Yeah.
I'm going to
yeah.
keep an eye
yeah,
on this.
saw
I
you
don't like
frown-
the way
That's
you're
right. I
looking
saw
at
you
me.
frowning at me.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And I saw how you went like that. You would
No,
love to do
there-
that to
yes.
me. Yeah. There, you know, when I was writing this piece, I said, "Oh my God, I feel so sick." It made me sick too.
No, it's
because
for real.
I was going into their personality and how they behave in the workplace.
Those type of people, they're around. They're in the
Oh
workplace.
yes, oh yes, they are.
And the only way that you can really, especially in leadership, bring
Oh my
in
gosh, they look for leadership. They look for power. That's their that's what it feeds them, and they don't care who they step on. They become dictatorial. They become authoritarian, as if they were the authority. They know nothing. They don't. They're ignorant,
yes,
and they're weak, and they're cowards. You know, they're all these things, and I'm saying, and the interesting thing, some of them rise up the ladder.
yes, that's the scary part.
Yes,
I've
disgusting.
seen
That's
it
what it
from
is.
the community all
You've
the way to
seen
the
it.
top. 30 years, yes. And it's funny that you say, oh my God, that person got elected, or that person was appointed to that position, when you know they have a track record that is, that the only thing that they leave behind is just chaos, mayhem, and havoc. But somehow,
Always.
nevertheless, they always find the type of
victim.
people, or
Yes.
the type of people that is going to help them be where they need to be, so they can create more mayhem.
That's why,
It's just
because they're
weird, but
sociopath. You know what a
they're manipulative.
highly
extremely.
manipulative.
Yes.
They know how to read people instantly.
Yes.
And so they see the, according to them, the weak one, the one that's meek, that's loyal, that's truthful, that's honest. They'll go after that person.
Yes.
Okay, because they feel they're the king or the queen of the jungle.
Yeah.
Because they create the jungle, you know
Yes.
that.
I know. No, I know. And that's what they do. Somehow they have that ability to
They
put
do.
themselves in positioning where even someone that you would think, a manager that has some kind of background to make an assessment, is that individual is capable to fulfill that position, but somehow, especially in politics and in
Yes.
government,
They meander and they get in.
and they somehow get in,
And
they use their connections as their power,
the
and then they use
connections-
it to go after the people they don't like in the workplace.
Oh,
That's
they're
what they do.
dangerous.
They're
Yes,
very
and
dangerous.
they'll oust the ones. Think with that. They'll oust the ones that they feel threatened. So
Yes.
who threatens them? No one really and truly threatens them, but whoever is perceived as superior, more intelligent, more likable. Okay, very disciplined.
Yes.
So they don't like any, because then it shows how
It's-
inferior they really are.
It makes them look bad.
It makes them look bad.
Yes,
I-
yes, yes.
And it's interesting because when I write, look at this little drawing. You see that twisted thing?
Yes.
So I wrote, they're sadistic, twisted,
Yes, and devious.
and devious.
They're very insidious. I
Yes.
mean, the kind of bullying that I have dealt with in my career and witnessed it in the community when we were receiving complaints when I was doing my short term as a commissioner of human rights, they all have the same kind of characteristics, what you just described.